So this is going to be the last of your in-class activities for this course. Um, I think. Pretty sure. Not 100% sure, but I've got a good idea. Uh, for the most part, we're going to be really concentrating on finishing the product and cause. So we'll start doing check-ins next week, one-on-ones, feedback, making sure that you are going down a road that is going to work for you. So this in-class activity is going to get you a little bit prepared, get you in the mood for your beer packaging with David. This is going to be an in-class exercise that you will finish at home, but it'll only really be a week. So the 4 elements are as follows. The name Hell's Gate was derived from the Journal of an Explorer, Simon Fraser. You may know him from Simon Fraser University. I guess he went there too. But it probably makes more sense that they named it after him. In 1808, he was trucking on down the Fraser River. I'm just going to take that little nugget out of there. He was trucking on down the Fraser River. At this point, it was pretty much unexplored, and Simon Fraser was an explorer, so that was a perfect meeting of coincidence. So what happened was they would go down these when they were exploring in giant sort of touring sort of war canoes piled with supplies, making their way down through at the time it was not Hell's Gate. So Hell's Gate is past Hope up through the Fraser Canyon. The water on the Fraser is very wide and at times slow moving, but as it comes down through the area now known as Hell's Gate, it really funnels down, and to this day you can go whitewater rafting there because as it funnels down it gets faster and steeper. So Simon Fraser came down the river and described this narrow passage as a place where no human should venture, for surely these are the gates of hell. So we are going to redesign Hell's Gate beer. Why Hell's Gate beer? So we were approached about 3 years ago to redesign their packaging and met with them, and they really did not have the budget to hire Signals, and they really haven't done anything since. So we are going to redesign it for them, and some of the elements that we're looking at can be derived from this story. So Hell's Gate right now is a place where you can whitewater raft. There is a crossing there where you can take the I don't know what you call it, a tram across and look at it. And there's a product called Hell's Gate the beer. So this is Hell's Gate the beer, premium lager, locally owned, original BC born and bred. You do not need to have that on there unless you want to. Crisp, clean flavor. You can put that on or change it. Beer and beer needs to be on there. 5.0% alcohol, volume 355 ml needs to be on there. And no preservatives, no additives has to be on there. So premium lager, Hell's Gate, and then that secondary information. That's the second element of this project. The next element that you need to know about is monoline. So we have looked at monoline in the past, and we have experimented with monoline. So just to refresh, with monoline logos are logos that are made from a single line that doesn't change in weight. It looks like it could be created from a single strand of string. The monoline provides a stripped down minimal look which can be crafted into an intricate or a simple symbol. So that's the key with this project. We are going to create a graphic for Hell's Gate using a monoline symbol. And I am going to try to take you through how you can start with a monoline symbol, stay with a monoline symbol, and create something that moves towards more of a graphic using the monoline as a starting point. So let's just refresh a little bit. They can be as simple as what you see here, virtually using zero pen tool. Yes, I could do this whole thing without a pen tool. Those are simple shapes that are connected. The mountain snow can be a zigzag line that is rounded. So at the very base level, they are a way to create an image that cannot be sort of looked at, and it takes away the amateurish nature of using a pen tool, right? And that is almost the dead giveaway for most students and designers. As soon as you use the pen tool, it's easy to tell when graphics or logos are a little bit off. They can be very simple, using the same weight, using the reflect tool. In this case, it's actual reflecting, and then using the reflect tool. So typically one of the things you'll see with monoline logos or graphics is a sense of symmetry, and that's what actually makes them fairly easy to produce and sort of easy to design. So yes, you need to have some imagination, and in this on this project you're going to need a lot of imagination. But at the end of the day, you know, even the simplest idea can end up looking good by using symmetry, simple line work, and keeping things consistent. Now, it's interesting what happens when they don't necessarily have to be completely symmetrical, but still using the same thickness. The only problem with this one is they haven't really thought about the relationship between the lines. So what you want to make sure when you're creating these is that you're giving yourself enough space, because what happens with the sort of little buildings on the right hand side is those areas end up filling in, so they actually no longer look like lines. The other thing about these monoline logos is the reality is you still have to have an imagination to create a logo or a graphic that is going to succeed, right? So you see a lot of these things where they're just two trees on a hilltop, and that's fine for a lot of applications. That can totally work. But the great thing about sort of monolines is that you can actually work with them to create not just graphics, but moving them completely into illustration. So adding color to them, having some symmetry, but you know, really sort of using imagination, you know, using all the sort of techniques and ideas that you need to come up with a good design to begin with. So that's what I hope we will accomplish in this in-class exercise. One of the things that I want to take you through is how you start how you start one of these, and then how you can actually move these, start them as a monoline and take them as far as you want. And when I say take them as far as you want, I mean oftentimes I'll start one of these and turn them into complete illustrations. And I don't have a great example. There's a couple color ones in here. Yeah, here's one where we're still keeping the monoline aspect of it, but now we're adding color fills into it. And that starts, that starts taking these things from just being sort of line work to then all of a sudden having some style to it, having turning them into more like illustrative graphics. And you can make these as complicated, as simple as you like, but when you start looking at them, they all relatively have started off as monoline sort of graphics or logos. So what I want to do is have you create a monoline graphic for the Hell's Gate beer can as part of this in-class exercise. Okay, so using the idea of the monoline as a starting point, you have to have an idea. So I'm going to walk you through how I approach this, and then I'm going to set you off, and you are going to create your own. So obviously you need an idea to begin with, and my idea on this one was to play up on the sort of devil idea and have sort of the devil actually become the rocks and the sort of sitting right in the river itself. So I was thinking when I first did it that I would have water coming out of his mouth or around his head type thing, and look at different ideas behind that. Okay, so basically I've redrawn as many of the as much as I can, the sort of sketch that I did, and obviously I had to use the pen tool on a few areas that just make it much easier, like some of the water lines, the horns type thing. So at this point all I'm trying to do is really create half of I actually work full and then I split it in half, so I'm just in the midst of splitting this in half. So if I pull this over, you can sort of see what I have, and then I'll do that just to get my drawing down pat. And then what I'm going to do is basically split it and then piece it back together so it is symmetrical. And then the nice thing about that is once you have that, you could simply make it line work if you wanted to. Obviously this is way too thin and needs some styling, but the overall look is relatively, it's a bit wonky, I'll tell you that, but it's close. I could probably work with this. So now what I can do is actually go in, and instead of keeping it a pure monoline, I can use those exact same lines and decide which ones can go thicker. So now what this is, now we're starting to take what is only a monoline logo and moving it to more of a illustrative graphic. Okay, so first off, I didn't create this as tight as I could, but I've recreated it, and now the key is to kind of go in and understand where you can go thicker and thinner on the lines, right? So as you go through here, and fills for as well, right? So you can sort of see I've made the water sort of coming out of his mouth. Okay, so you can see that I've changed some of the symmetry. So I sort of done these rounded shoulder things, and I don't know. I'll probably do multiple versions, but you can sort of see on this side the rocks are a little bit different. But for the most part, and obviously the water is different on both sides. It's not completely symmetrical. But those are the types of things, once you sort of have your design, you can decide. I mean, really the face should be symmetrical. I've added some birds. Instead of the tram, I've put a skull, added a few little fishies, some trees, waters, and then the idea behind this, and this is for you guys, is that we want this thing to have, we want it to be modern, but we also want to have a little bit of a vintage feel with some of the type elements. So you can start seeing that I've added just some little elements here and there, and I can zoom out a bit on this. Yeah, so sort of arced premium lager. I don't know if that'll stay or not once I do it. But what I wanted to do is sort of end the water element, and then sort of bring in a little bit more some other elements. So you can sort of see I've added these little tags around, added a little bit of texture to it, a couple paddles, Hell's Gate, British Columbia. And right now I haven't done much to the type. I've just sort of set it in there, and I've used, so this is Hauler 6, so using uppercase on the beginning and end of it so that it kind of has some symmetry to it. And then I'll probably do something with the color of it. But one of the things you can do is I try and look for areas where I almost want to sort of emulate light and dark. So, you know, from around the ears, I made them that a little bit thicker, and you'll see that around the face and stuff, although I forgot to do it up here, made it a little bit thicker. But then some of the details I keep still thin, and then even sort of doing things like adding little hits of color here and there to sort of fill it out. And let's zoom out a little bit more. There you can sort of see, and I was playing around with a few different elements. So once you have that, the nice thing about that is, and I've mentioned this to you guys probably about 100 times in the last 3 years. Once you have one of those things, then the key is to just keep going. And so we've started with this monoline logo, and now we're sort of moving it, still using the exact same line work that I started with, that was all one weight, and now I'm adding some fill to it. I'm playing around with the thickness of the line work and adding color. So then taking that same illustration and just building it out a little bit. So I've taken out the idea of the shoulders and tried to add some elements on the side, and I don't know if it's working yet. I've tried to sort of, it's not quite standing out enough, but I've tried to sort of put in these canoes coming down each side, and then I have these kind of wings that morph into mountains back here, and then some wonky looking skulls that I've placed in. And I worked on this, I started it last year, and so this is just another version that I'm working on. So, and then down at the bottom you can sort of see that I'm using the same sort of idea, but a little bit of a different approach. So here I'm using Haulers 9, which is a version of Haulers, which is a script. So a little bit more, this one definitely has a little bit more of a vintage feel to it. And then sort of, this is just a version where I break out a little bit. I brought in a bunch of little sort of type elements that we've talked about in the past. So adding some little areas of interest, a little bit of text. I've added a little bit of stipple here, but I don't think I'll keep it, but added some dot pattern. Then once you have that, you know, you really are that close to really just moving completely out of it being a line, it being kind of a line illustration. So even though this has all the same elements that I kind of started with, I've changed the head a little bit, I filled in the trees, and then used positive negative for it to stand out a little bit. So then it become what starts off as a graphic, then starts off as a monoline logo, can just continue until it becomes a full sort of graphic, and then kind of moving it back the other way, so that I kind of take all of the elements that were line work, and pushing the face back, and simplifying a few shapes and adding some color to it. Again, it gives it a much different feel. But the idea is really, I started off with one sort of monoline logo. And really what I encourage you to do when you're creating graphics is it's an absolute, it's a great approach, because you can then take it and move it beyond just the monoline. So kind of know, like, I've used monoline logos in the past, and they're fine, and they're great and everything. And we've seen them a million times, like anything. But the nice thing about starting with one is really, if you think about it this way, it's really like creating a wireframe of your graphic. So if you're doing something that's not a full illustration, it can completely work. So there's one more that I had to do because I wasn't loving the just the devil by himself. So I tried to put him underwater like he drowned, and some of it works. Feel like the skull maybe needs to be more devilish like, and the trees are a little bit basic, so I probably stylized those a little bit. But you can sort of see these, again, this is all just starting with a monoline approach. So then your task is then to take that design and put it on a can. You only have to put it on one can. I just started farting around with bringing in those different versions. So you can see, oops, there's the main version with the bony shoulders. Then there's the sort of arc type, using the same typeface. You see here on this one, I've given it a slight white drop shadow, and which is okay. You just don't want it to be a completely separate drop shadow, meaning that you can see space in between it. So you can sort of see on this one, I did the same thing. So you just see this white underneath as if you were looking up at it. Yeah, mainly using the same typefaces. There you can sort of see the guy that sadly went under, and there was the kind of a gray a gray, tried like a flat sort of gray one with the guys in the canoes coming down. I think you sort of see how some of those elements play out down below. It gets a little bit crowded, but again, I don't think I have to tell you how hard it is working to get those things in dimension. And there was the one that I sort of turned into more of a straight illustration, and then I threw in kind of a bad abstract one here as well. So yeah, the idea is again, come up with your idea, right? So just sketch it out. Once you have it sketched out, you're basically redrawing a monoline version of it. Once you have, once you sort of get that and you put your type on it, you're going to figure out how it's going to fit on the can. So again, you sort of see some of these wrap quite a ways around the can. Some are more like the one on the front, and the red one are more like just sort of layering it using the very front and less elements on the side. So those are the types of things that you'll have to figure out as well. So really what is due is a mocked up version in dimensions of a beer can with your new Hell's Gate premium lager. You can use all this sort of other little things. So I put like established 67. Some of them I actually use like Union Made and Hell's Gate, British Columbia. On this one I put batch 666. And a couple of them I put like 6.66%, things like that. But you can do whatever you like. The idea is that you come up with an idea, right? So let's start with the idea. It doesn't necessarily have to have Satan in it, but it is Hell's Gate, and I do like drawing devils, so that's kind of fun. But you don't have to. You can whatever you can come up with, you absolutely can. You can, even if you feel like you want to try and build upon what I've done, you can do that. I would have a run at it using your own kind of visual style devil. I mean, there's you can see I've used quite a few different style devils in this one, or Satan, Beelzebub, Dark Lord, whatever. But the idea is that you have a little bit of fun with it. You want it to be kind of modern slash vintage, so that kind of balance of a little bit of each. And it will be due for next week.